And now it's time to hear from some of our transformative school leaders. Juliana Urtubey is the 2021 Nevada State Teacher of the Year. I just followed her on Twitter. It's so cool. She's got Nevada State Teacher of the Year up there. She's a finalist for National Teacher of the Year. She serves as an instructional strategist and co-teacher for the pre-K and special education departments at Kermit R. Booker Elementary in Westside, Las Vegas. And Dr. Michelle Reed is the superintendent of the North Shore School District, and hopefully I'm not mispronouncing this, Bothell. Is that right? Bothell?
Bothell.
Bothell. Okay, Bothell. That one I didn't give me instruction. Washington in February. She was named the 2021 National Superintendent of the Year. So you got both ends of the spectrum here. Congratulations to both of you for joining us. Juliana, let me just start with you. So first of all, really congratulations. But how do you make it work in this time? I mean, we're all trying to find our way. I guess, I want to sort of jump forward a year and say, okay, what were the cool things we learned? What were the lessons in dealing with each other we learned? What were the devices and technologies that helped make this easier that we ought not to toss away? And I'd love to get your insights into this moment and what you think has really mattered as you've done your job.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a great pride to represent the state of Nevada. How do we do this? Well, it's all about collaboration, and it's thinking really carefully about what that collaboration means. It means teachers collaborating with each other to a higher degree. That was the only way that we could manage the workload that we were all facing. It meant deeper collaborations with families. It meant involving more student choice and student voice into all of our instruction. That way we can make sure we had the highest attendance rate as possible. Students were engaging and they were learning. So I think one of the biggest shifts that I want to hold on to with all my might moving forward, and it's so exciting to say moving forward, we're getting to that point where we're all planning for what's next. What I want to hold on to with Dear Life is designs like UDL, Universal Design for Learning for all, meaning that we let students work at their pace. We let them reach their mastery at levels and ways that make the most sense to them. I'm a special education teacher, so it's so important to me that our students are fully included in all of the technology pieces that they have access to. And it's letting students redo assignments. It's letting them engage in assignments that mark and charge their curiosity.
But before I jump over to Michelle, can you tell us about this program, Connecting Kids Nevada?
Absolutely. It's such a bright spot in our state. Connecting Kids Nevada is a private and public task force that brought people from all over our state together to meet the equity needs of technology for all of our students. And over the course of 4 months, they were able to provide every single student who needed it in Nevada with a Chromebook and with a Wi-Fi hotspot. The system was seamless. It was really easy for families to navigate, and it just changed the way we taught. The previous year, when COVID hit, we were doing the best that we could with whatever technology we could scramble. And moving forward in the fall, we knew that all of our students would have that technology, and it just let us formalize and make our learning way more authentic.
Wow, thank you. Dr. Reed, I know, as a superintendent, you've got a lot of folks working with you, and you basically have to look at this entire ecosystem, and that includes not just students and teachers, but parents and other partners in the community. And I also know that you've been focusing a lot on STEM and on equity and making sure we have equitable inclusion in that environment. I guess, what are the most important pieces of this that our audience should understand? Because, partly I like to make these show and tell. What can they hear from you that we might consider replicating in their communities?
Thank you, and thanks for having me. And thanks, Juliana. I think that there are some fabulous tips that she shared as well. We come from a premise that learning happens best in community. And the stronger our community and the more inclusive our community is, the more connected our community is, the more likely it is that our schools are going to be strong and reflect the best of our community. In North Shore, we have 94 home languages spoken, and so we're a very diverse community. And one of the things we've learned is that has been a powerful strength as we've navigated the last year. We've had a number of our community members connected with family around the world, so we continue to get updates on best practices from around the world. And what we realize is we don't know everything here in North Shore. And if we're going to model learning and staying in community, then we need to stay in conversation, not just with our staff internally, but with our students. I spend a lot of time. I'm in every virtual classroom by the end of the year, meeting with students, hearing their needs, meeting with parents regularly. I think the power of community has really come home during this past year. We've learned more about each other, I think, than we ever had, right? About each other's pets, our hobbies, and a variety of things. And I think that's a tenet of education, right? You have a powerful education system when students are known and seen and have a voice and feel connected. And it's important to know students and their work well for us to make the progress we need to make one at a time. And eventually that creates a powerful, positive system.
You know, I spent a lot of time with educators in the Eastern Shore of Maryland, and to be honest, the picture there is a bit more mixed. I wish it were all great, but you know, there are some students that don't that have kind of fallen out of the picture, if you will. I talk to teachers, and they're worried about it. We have people kind of connect. One of the things that's very clear to me about both of your profiles is it's high touch, that you really work hard to get connections with the students, find out where they are, to reach them, to know them, other teachers. Is that transportable? Is that an ethic, or is that an app? Are there dimensions that those that are struggling with what you've succeeded at might learn from something? Juliana?
I definitely think that we can use technology to enhance it, but it comes with first our teaching philosophies, our philosophies of how we learn and why we learn. And if we can all come to the agreement that how we learn is through each other, like Michelle just pointed out, it's all about our students being able to connect to themselves, to their communities and families, and to their world. And so it really means educators coming together to have a philosophy that puts people first, that's human first, that's community first. And so teachers need to continue to spend a good amount of time and energy into getting to know our students, understanding their many layers of identities, how those identities show, how those identities shifts, and then designing our instruction based on that knowledge, making sure that we have a lot of room for input from families and communities, that we understand students' social, political frameworks, their historical lineage. All of that contributes into really being able to create this classroom and school bond that will allow us to endure a crisis like the COVID-19 pandemic. And we can enhance it through technology, but at the heart and center is people and the love that we have for each other and for learning. Thank you.
Michelle, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree with Juliana. And I would also say that because we've been in this pandemic morass, honestly, for now just over a year, I think we've forgotten that we had these inequities before the pandemic.
Of course.
And the systemic structures that did not support all children before cannot be the structures we return to when we return to our school buildings in a more traditional space and routine. We've talked a lot in North Shore about opening the schools of the future and not the schools of the past. It's very important that we shed some of our structural practices that have had children not be seen, connected, or heard prior to the pandemic. I think the pandemic has really just revealed into everyone, right, some of the huge inequities that have been there for many, many years. And I think I think it's heightened our resolve to address them.
This is a terrific conversation. We have a quick question for you from Karen Howard. Karen?
Hello, I'm Karen Howard, Director of Policy and Advocacy at Mental Health America. In 2020, over 2.5 million people came to MHA's website to take a mental health screening. 42% of those screeners were between the ages of 11 and 17 years old, and that age group was the most likely to score with severe to moderate anxiety and depression. Suicide also continues to be the second leading cause of death for youth ages 10 to 24 years old. As schools reopen, how are systems planning to meet the emotional and mental health needs of students experiencing anxiousness, depression, and suicidality?
Thanks, Karen. Very sobering question. Juliana, your thoughts on the mental health agenda that we need to consider?
Absolutely. So I think one of the things that all schools should be able to say is that they have both a counselor and a social worker in addition to the psychologist. We know that in years past with budget cuts, those are usually some of the first areas where those positions get cut. And teachers need the support of counselors and social workers to provide wraparound services to our students. Teachers also need to continue to be able to not only learn about social and emotional learning for students, but for themselves too. It starts with us. It starts with how we model managing our own emotions, our own frustrations, how we embrace failure and mistakes as an opportunity to learn, how we model to our students self-love and connectivity. We know that when students are connected to other students and they get to do this through meaningful play, something which I really hope that when we go back, when everybody goes back into the physical buildings, we incorporate way more play, because play not only is great for our students for their physical health, but it's great for their emotional health. And also that we design learning that mirrors our students' cultural linguistic gifts, that our students can see themselves how they connect to their community. These ideas have great impact on what our students can do in terms of their self-worth. When we really help our students by showing them how we see them as wonderful, capable, creative people, then they'll be able to lean into that a little bit more. And for the students who that's not quite enough, we need tangible, people power. We need all sorts of services to wrap around.
Thank you. Dr. Reed, your quick thoughts?
My quick thoughts would be it's really important for us to utilize research-based trauma-informed practices as we're bringing students back to campus, and really take the time necessary to authentically listen to the concerns and address those. I would also say, just as a FYI, that mental health has been in pandemic proportions for several years as well. And I honestly think, No Child Left Behind was initiated in 2001. With all of the standardized testing and all of the accoutrements that come with all of that. And it's been a generation of students, 18 years, a generation of students who have gone through school with a very narrowed curriculum in many places, elimination of opportunities in the arts and hands-on learning and opportunities to be creative and thoughtful and collaborative as we have this rush to standards, right? And what parent wants to put that I have a standard child on the refrigerator? No one's looking for that, right? So I think we really need to think both in the moment and apply trauma-informed practices as we greet children and families returning to schools. And we really need to think about what are the courses and what is the education we're providing that enables that confident, creative thinker that we're going to need in this world yet to be imagined.
Look, I am so glad that somebody found both of you, Dr. Michelle Reed, the 2021 National Superintendent of the Year, Juliana Urtubey, the 2021 Nevada Teacher of the Year. Sometimes I'm very skeptical if people go get awards, but I could tell why you deserve those awards. I hope you do lots of show and tell about the various important steps you're taking, to basically take care of the child where the child is. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us today.
Thank you.